When update 1.26 came out, one of the things I was really wanting to try was the new concentration perk from Crew 2.0, because who doesn't want an FE that is 3.5% more accurate? But in my excitement, there was one crucial thing I had also forgot, and it wasn't until I saw people getting nuked from the sky that I had realized that artillery also got the same exact buff. So ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to be showing you just how much of a difference it makes on artillery, and you're going to see that in the gameplay where I am playing the Object 261 and also the Lefh with the new crew perks, and I'm going to tell you why I think this is a major problem and a major oversight mistake made by Wargaming and the possible solutions that could fix this. So let's get right into it. Now, everybody knows that artillery is the class that is able to miss you by 5 meters and still do 300 damage. However, with the new concentration perk, they are now 3.5% more accurate, and they essentially always have this buff because they are always able to stay stationary for at least 3 seconds before taking their shots. Now, this is not the only perk that has allowed artillery to become more powerful. As you guys also know, there is the perfect charge perk, which makes your shells 10% faster. And unlike other guns where this changes the trajectory of how much your shell dips over distance, with artillery, they keep the same arc, yet the shell flies faster. And I understand this doesn't sound like a huge buff to artillery, but it does make a subtle difference when your shell is traveling a half second faster towards its target, because that means there's less time for that target to react towards artillery firing for them. And this was the whole point of adding the skill sound detection, was to be able to move out of the shell's trajectory fast enough. And mind you, this only works if you are in a tank that was fast enough to actually move outside of it. But now it doesn't matter because the shells are coming in faster, and it certainly doesn't matter now because you only get 6 perks to choose from in the first place, and there are much better perks than sound detection to be taking. Now, while I wish I could say concentration and perfect charge were the only thing helping artillery, there are 2 more skills that are majorly buffing artillery, and the first of which increases their accuracy another 1.5%. This is going to be the armorer skill. When it's fully trained, not only are we reducing the amount of minimal potential rolls that it does, it also increases the accuracy even more. And mind you, when you add the commander's bonus, it's not just 1.5% bonus to accuracy, it's like 1.85%. So when I say 3.5%, when I say 1.5%, you might as well round up to 2% because that's the type of buffs we're seeing with artillery. And this is reflected in the gameplay that you guys are seeing in the Object 261 and also in the M53, and soon enough we're going to see it in the Lefh. Now, when I initially brought up these issues to my own community and also on Reddit, a lot of people were expecting that we would find that artillery's marks of excellence requirements would increase drastically. But what I found when I looked into the data might actually surprise you. Contrary to a lot of our expectations, artillery's marks of excellence actually dropped across the board anywhere from 30 to about 200 combined damage. Now, when you hear that, you may think like, what the hell has this guy been talking about for the last couple minutes? If the data doesn't show that artillery is increasing its marks, then it's not getting better. And you might be correct if it weren't for one factor that's missing in the equation. One of the most glossed over factors in update 1.26 was the changes to consumables. And in that, we saw major buffs towards large repair kits and also large med kits. And this is what we need to focus on, because essentially, when Wargaming changed the cooldown time for large medkits from 90 seconds down to 60 seconds, and you pair this with the perk Practicality, you end up being able to use your medkit within about 52 seconds, and that is a very big nerf to RD's ability to get assistance damage. And totally ignoring the Practicality perk, when you consider that the cooldown time was changed from 90 to 60 seconds, it is essentially a 33% debuff towards artillery's assistance, and anybody who has been trying to do the missions for artillery and stun assist will tell you that it got much harder because of this change. What we should see in these stats is about a 30% decrease in artillery's effectiveness and in their marks, but that's also not happening. So everything that I have been telling you guys about artillery becoming more accurate and everything that I'm going to continue to tell you in this video is exactly what has been compensating for this major nerf. So despite this huge nerf towards RD's ability to farm assistance damage, they are making up for it in raw damage. Tanks like the Batchat 155 are making up for it in raw damage because they're hitting more accurately. This is a disgusting level of accuracy, and this is the most accurate artillery that we have ever had in the game in the history of World of Tanks. And when I'm saying the most accurate, what I mean is that artillery has this accuracy almost at all times. But what happens when you stack it with skills like Comms Expert? Comms Expert was originally, in my mind, supposed to be a skill meant for light tanks. When their assistant supersedes their HP, they end up getting an extra 2.5% better. But all it takes for artillery to do, because their HP is so low, is to get one tracking or one lucky stun assist, and then they are 2.5% better. And they get this buff for the remainder of the battle. And what's more is the fact that artillery is going to be more consistent in the damage that it does and in its penetrations. If you guys are noticing that artillery is penning more, it's number one because it's more accurate, but also because of the ammo tuning skill, which allows its penetration to be higher and also the damage to be more consistently higher at the same time. Listen, I know some of you guys are thinking, what is the big deal? Doesn't everybody have access to these skills? Yes, they do, but there's a huge difference in the classes and the way they're able to scale. In normal tanks, you actually have to think about what skills you're going to take because you're in a variety of different situations. So to be effective, to be optimally effective in every situation, so if I'm down on 25% health, the Adrenaline Rush perk is very useful to me. However, this skill is essentially useless for artillery because when are they going to be below 25% health? If they're spotted, they're dead. They don't need to take that skill. Just in the same way, they don't need to take the emergency skill because it's not useful to them. They get hit, they're essentially spotted, and they're most likely going to die. What this means is that because artillery doesn't have to diversify, they become the most effective that they can be at about 3 skills. They only have to grind 3 skills in order to be optimally effective as opposed to any other class. So they can put all of their perks into becoming the most annoying person from the back of the map. And mind you, they are much more accurate now. And you know, some people are going to say to me, like, why can't we just have this? Like, let artillery players have something. We don't get premium tanks and we don't get any buffs or whatnot. Good, you shouldn't. And I'm going to clearly explain to you why that is. The presence of artillery is probably single-handedly one of the biggest problems for lower tier people who are new to the game quitting. And you know what? I'm gonna show you why. The Lefh is a perfect example. This thing has been sold over and over. Shame on Wargaming for selling it. It should have never been sold, and honestly, it's the one premium tank I think we should actually remove from the game. Even the BZ-176 is fixable. The Lefh is not. It is broken, it is overpowered, it is disgusting for the game's health. It is the reason for this alone why I do not care about artillery players getting anything. And you may be watching this and thinking, wow, this guy is really biased. Yeah, I am biased. I am principally biased because I care more about the experience of new players and the longevity of this game and the balance of this game than I do about some clickers' experience, their fun, 1 or 2 shotting a tier 4 or tier 5. And the reason why I am highlighting the Lefh and also lower tiered artillery in particular is because their damage per shot is way disproportionate to the amount of HP on average between tiers 4 and tier 6. They will do, on average, about anywhere from 50% of the health on a penetration to like 30% on a non-penetration. And this is unique to lower tiered artillery in general. And this is not going to be addressed by Wargaming. And these are supposed to be balanced by the fact that a lot of these guns are inaccurate. But now they're not. We are right back at where we didn't want to be for the M44. Where we didn't want to be for the Grillo. All of these tanks got the buff that they did not need, especially since it's on lower tiers. It is so clear to me, so crystal clear, that artillery is one of the reasons why the new player experience is awful in World of Tanks. Because in what other game do you have a class where they essentially snipe you and there's 0 ways to counter them? At least in other games, when you have a sniper class, they have to be in line of sight, just in the same way TDs have to. TDs are also extremely annoying because you can't see them until they fire and then you lose 800 health. But at least you can fire back at them and try to trade decently. With artillery, you can't do that. There is 0 counters. And for anybody who wants to say, well, historically accurate artillery used to obliterate tanks and whatnot, it totally belongs in the game. Well, I hate to break it to you that historically accurate artillery also had to move after firing because counter battery radar would pick up where they are and they'd be obliterated if they didn't move. And in fact, I think this is actually a great idea. It would make the class of artillery actually a little bit more dynamic. I absolutely think that should be a thing. So if you guys want to make the realism argument, I say go all the way, but don't pick and choose the parts that you want from realism. And I want to reiterate, the reason why artillery needs to not have these buffs is not because I find it annoying personally. It is because it is rotting the base of our game and the new player experience totally and completely. It is one of the major reasons. Our new player experience sucks enough. The presence of artillery makes it unbearable. It is as simple as that. And for anybody who's going to come at me and say like, well, there's a good portion of players who play artillery, I don't care, because it's still smaller than the amount of likely customers who actually play normal tanks and who want to buy premium tanks that are also normal tanks. Why would I, as Wargaming, want to balance and buff the game around artillery if my likely customers, the ones who actually pay for things, are playing normal tanks? The math doesn't add up. It's as simple as that. Between the new player experience and between the math on business, it doesn't add up. It doesn't. Sorry. I don't really care. So, anyways, let's move on. I need to talk about some of the solutions to this and how this could feasibly be fixed. The solution is quite simple. What we needed to have in the new crew system was a crew system that recognizes that certain perks should be more effective on certain tanks or not available on certain tanks. What I mean by this is that some classes, such as light tanks, should have access to recon and situational awareness, while other tanks don't have access to these skills. Or alternatively, and this is what I'm in favor of, is having these skills be more effective on tanks like light tanks and less effective on others. What this would do is actually make classes more specialized, like they should be. One of the problems that I highlighted in my last video was the fact that all the crew skills consolidate and everybody is using the same skills. To fix this, we should make certain classes have more effective perks, such as heavy tanks with the emergency skill or adrenaline rush, whereas tanks like light tanks don't need to have that same amount of effectiveness for those skills. Returning the uniqueness to classes with a crew perk system like this would also have the side effect of removing some of the benefits that artillery is now gaining from the stuff that is available to everybody. I personally think that concentration should be a perk that is more specific to tank destroyers because they have the need to actually shoot at things from a distance. But as always, I'm curious to know what you guys think of these ideas, and let me know in the comment section if you have any other ideas. Now, with the topic of artillery, I know it could be kind of a little bit of a meme to say that artillery is broken and it's unfair, but truly, in this iteration of artillery, we have not seen artillery so powerful. And because it is now more than ever threatening the newer player experience, something needed to be said. Because I truly do care about this game's health, and I'd like to see the game live well into the future. And that's why I make these videos, just because I honestly think that World of Tanks can be better. And it's also the reason why I made this video about artillery. So if you guys want to watch that, feel free to. But regardless, I'm wishing you guys all a great day, and I will see you guys soon in the next one. Peace.